Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of the Masters with Harshit podcast. This episode is very different from all those that we've had so far. This one is addressing a more important question along the lines of whether it is the right time for people to come to the US to pursue their masters. If you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do so right now. A lot of people have been reaching out to me on LinkedIn, family, friends, connections on LinkedIn, juniors from university, and things like that, asking whether they should come to the US right now for their masters. And that is, according to me, a very, very loaded question. And tons of people have given their very own perspective. And I just wanted to shed some light through my experience at Columbia since I just finished school and what my job search looked like and whether folks should, still consider moving or not. So looking at it from first principles, right? First question, why do you want to come to the US for your master's? If you're coming to the US to do your research, I think it's still a fantastic time, right? If you're doing something along GPU or like AI or stuff like that, there is huge push in that space. That being said, there have been budget cuts when it comes to research funding. So before you head out to your research program, or you apply to the program, make sure to understand where the research grants are coming from. If they're coming from federal sources, there is a good chance that budgets are cut. But if you are having private donors or the university is using its own funds or something of that sort, then I think research is fantastic. Second, the category of people is people who are moving to the US to get a job here. And third is people who are trying to pivot, people who are moving from something like metallurgy or mechanical or chemical into computer science, right? So I think those are three main categories I can think of as people moving to the US, and I will address each of these over time. So if you're coming to the US to a public university where if you get a tiership or an honorship and your tuition fee is waived off and you have very little financial risk or burden of coming to the US, I think it's a fantastic time to be here in the US, right? There is no better place in the world for tech than US. If you come into a private university and you're stretching your budget, I think it's still all right unless you have a lot at stake, because then it is definitely risky. The job market is not what it was 2-3 years ago. People were getting jobs left, right, and center. But right now, companies are getting more lean. Companies are focusing on productivity. Companies are focusing on how to get work done with less people, right? And I'm not talking about AI replacing software engineers, right? That's not it. That's not what is actually happening in most places. But more along the lines of, do we really need so many people on the engineering team? Do we need so many engineers working on this particular task? Can we do it quicker? Can we do it faster? Are what people are asking. So the number of positions are definitely not as high as they were 2 years ago. But that being said, they're not too bad either, right? This year, the market was slightly better than what it was last year, I imagine. And the same with internships as well. This year, juniors at Columbia and other universities are getting more interview calls than people were getting at my time. A lot of companies which were not hiring back then in the scale they were then are doing right now. So another thing that is quite beneficial in times like this is a co-op program. So universities like Northeastern University have a co-op program where you can spend a semester working at a company. It could be remote or in person or whatever, right? And the money you make is definitely good enough to cover a semester, 2 semesters of tuition fees. And that is pretty helpful. If you do not want to start working immediately and you want to do a co-op between your semesters, that is a fantastic thing to do too. I also want to talk a little bit about my Columbia experience and, guide people who are thinking about jobs and internships and stuff of that sort. So getting an internship definitely is not easy, or getting a job itself is not easy, because a lot of folks who come from India, including me, we were in that very comfortable bubble of companies will come to you, they will interview you on campus interviews and that stuff of that sort, right? But in the US, it's a completely different game. And people who've moved here know the real struggle, right? People spend days, weeks, months, and couple of months together just trying to apply for jobs, trying to land an interview, because getting an interview itself is so hard. You need the right resume. You need a good amount of luck in your favor. We've spoken about this in previous episodes as well. where luck is a huge factor in the whole job process. It's just not your skill, it's also luck. So doing all of that and being one of the first ones to apply for the job, having a referral, all of these definitely do work in your favor, right? So the job market is not easy. But that being said, I have friends who've landed multiple offers. I had 2 offers. I have friends who've had like 4 offers, 5 offers, and stuff of that sort. But I also have friends on the other end of the spectrum who, after graduating for like 2-3 months, are still looking for a job. So people have had very, very mixed experiences, and I think it's like a case to case basis on what the experience is like. Another very significant thing that people are talking about is the visa and the geopolitical situation. So one thing I know for sure is that H-1B has definitely become more simpler this year than it was last year. Definitely the number of your successful applicants is not increasing, but the bar to enter is much higher, so you don't have all these mass companies who are entering and getting multiple slots for the same individuals. So I think that is a good thing on the H-1B visa front. But on the other side, OPT is definitely what it was before. There are talks of people wanting to cut down on OPT and OPT extension and things like that, but those talks have been going on for a really long time. So I don't think that it is something to really worry about. Also, given how the administration is very pro technical skilled labor, I think most of these should not really be an issue in the foreseeable future. But again, who am I to predict? I think one advantage and one thing I've spoken and like heard from a lot of people is about your university's brand and location. So my one of my offer came from a person I spoke to on campus and stuff like that, right? So if you're located in a metropolitan city, you're in California, you're in New York, you're in Boston, or you're in some central city where companies are close by and you have adjunct professors who come in and like take classes for you, I think you are at a much better situation of landing a job than you are at like a university at a remote city. So I think location right now in times like this is very, very, very important. Another thing I've also noticed is people kind of get lax into applying for jobs. They focus more on like academics and stuff like that. That is not a bad thing, all right? But that being said, I think you should also be focusing on applying for jobs because the job market is not easy. Do not think that, hey, I come with 3 years of experience, so I've done software engineering before, so I should easily land a software engineering internship, right? They should be taking me. What's wrong? But the world does not work that way. You need to apply. You need to get into the same line, the same channel as like everyone else do. So keep that in mind and like, I think focus on just applying and applying and applying, network with people, get referrals, pull up your contact book, talk to your alums, your undergrad alums, your current university alums, your family, friends, everyone. Pull up their contacts, talk to them, ask them what is their company hiring, do they have positions on their team, do they know friends who have positions open on their teams, and that's literally the only way you can actually end up with an internship or job for most of the cases, right? So I think this is a very hard question to answer. And I've tried my best to answer it in like the most simple way possible, but I think there will be more developments as time comes by. And if you're someone who's receiving your admit and you're planning on coming in fall 25, I think consider these factors. And if you think you have a good shot, you're smart, and you're ready to put in the hard work, I think the US is still one of the most rewarding places to be in.